My name is Hannah, and I'm 38 years old. For the past 15 years, I've been the person who made every single holiday meal for my family. Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas feasts, birthday cakes, summer barbecues, name it, I was the one in the kitchen making it all happen. While my family spent those holidays laughing, talking, and taking photos, I was always stuck behind the stove. Year after year, there were never any pictures of me at these family gatherings. In the photo albums, there were just empty chairs where I should have been sitting, smiling with everyone else. Last year, something inside me finally broke. I realized how much I had given and how little anyone seemed to notice or care. And now, as I sit on a warm beach in Mexico on Christmas Day, sipping coffee and feeling the ocean breeze, I imagine my family back home staring at a frozen turkey, completely lost without me. This is the story of how I went from being invisible at my own family holidays to finally taking my place at the table. Growing up, I was the oldest of 3 kids. That came with a lot of responsibility, but at first, I didn't mind. Everyone always said I was the responsible one, the one who had it all together. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut. When it came time for college, I didn't go far, just a half hour away from home. I studied graphic design, but along the way, I signed up for a cooking class to fill an empty spot in my schedule. I had no idea that class would change the course of my life. You see, in my family, cooking was never anyone's strength. My dad, Harold, was a quiet man, an accountant who would hide behind his newspaper whenever conversations got emotional. My mum, Linda, tried her best, but her cooking was, well, let's just say we ate a lot of burnt casseroles or frozen dinners growing up. Then there was my younger sister, Megan, 4 years younger than me. Megan was always the pretty one, the star athlete, the one who was constantly surrounded by friends. Now, she works in public relations, which, from what I see on her Instagram, seems to mostly involve long lunches and fancy parties. My youngest brother, Tyler, is 8 years younger than me and has always been treated like the baby of the family. Even though he works in tech now and makes double what I do, he still brings his laundry to Mum's house whenever he visits. And then there's Grandma Ruth, my mom's mom. She lives nearby and comes over for dinner every Sunday. Grandma Ruth strongly believes that a woman's value comes from how well she manages her home. She never says it outright, but she's made plenty of comments over the years that make her views clear. During college, that one cooking class sparked something in me. At first, it was just fun to follow a recipe and see it turn out well. But then I started taking extra weekend workshops at a local culinary school. There was something magical about turning basic ingredients into something special, something that brought people together. The first big holiday meal I ever cooked for my family happened when I was 23. That year, Mum came down with the flu, and Grandma Ruth was away visiting her sister in Florida. Dad suggested ordering food from a restaurant, but I offered to cook instead. I spent days planning the perfect Thanksgiving menu. I researched recipes, bought all the ingredients, and even made a timeline so everything would come out hot and ready at the same time. When the big day came, everything went smoothly. My turkey came out perfectly golden brown. The sides were delicious. When everyone sat down to eat, their reactions were incredible. Dad actually put down his newspaper and told me it was the best turkey he had ever eaten. Megan, who normally never complimented anyone, asked me for my cranberry sauce recipe. Even picky. Teenage Tyler cleaned his plate without a single complaint. Mum was feeling better by dinner time and gave me a huge hug, whispering that I had saved Thanksgiving. That moment was unforgettable. For the first time, I felt truly appreciated by my family, not just as the oldest daughter, who always had to be responsible, but as someone who created something special for them. At the time, I was dating Ethan, a journalism major who dreamed of traveling the world. He helped me that day chopping vegetables, washing dishes, and keeping me company in the kitchen. After dinner, When everyone had moved to the living room to watch football, Ethan and I stayed behind to clean up. "They really loved your cooking," he said, rinsing a pan. I smiled, still glowing from all the compliments. "Yeah, they did. It felt amazing." Ethan gave me a look I didn't quite understand at the time. "Just be careful," he said gently. "It's great that they appreciate this, but you don't want to get stuck being the one who always does it." I laughed and brushed off his warning. "I don't mind. Cooking makes me happy, and it feels good to do something nice for them." He didn't argue, but I noticed the concern in his eyes. If only I had paid more attention to his words back then. That one Thanksgiving set the tone for the next 15 years of my life. What I thought was a one-time thing turned into an unspoken rule. From then on, everyone just assumed that I would handle every holiday meal. Christmas, Easter, 4th of July barbecues, even birthdays, it all became my responsibility. No one ever asked me if I wanted to do it. It was just expected. At first I didn't mind. I loved cooking, and it felt good to make people happy. But slowly, over time, it stopped feeling like a gift and started feeling like a job. By the next year, Mum casually said, "Since your turkey was so good last year, maybe you could do Christmas dinner too." I said yes, of course. Back then, I was eager to please, always wanting my family's approval. Little did I know how much it would cost me in the years to come. After that first Thanksgiving, my role as the family chef grew quickly, though I didn't realize what was happening at first. The following Christmas, Mum casually mentioned that since my turkey had been such a success, I might want to take over Christmas dinner as well. She said it so naturally, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Sure," I said without hesitation, excited to plan another big meal. By the next year, no one even asked me. It was just assumed that I would do all the cooking, all the planning, all the cleaning. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, the 4th of July, birthday parties. Every single family event somehow became my responsibility. At first, I didn't mind. It felt good to be needed. I loved trying new recipes and seeing the joy on everyone's faces when they ate my food. But over time, I noticed a shift. It wasn't just that I was cooking. It was that I was doing everything. I wasn't just preparing meals, I was designing menus, doing all the grocery shopping, decorating the table, handling last-minute errands, and of course, scrubbing mountains of dirty dishes afterward. Meanwhile, my family laughed and chatted in the living room, snapping photos together, while I was stuck alone in the kitchen. There were hundreds of photos of holidays and birthdays over the years, and in almost none of them was I present. I was always the one behind the camera, or worse, completely missing because I was busy cooking. Sometimes I would pause while stirring a sauce or basting a turkey, and just listen to the sound of everyone having fun without me. It was a lonely feeling I couldn't quite put into words. Even Ethan began to notice the imbalance. For the first few years, he had been supportive, even helping me prep ingredients or wash dishes. But as time went on, his patience began to wear thin. One December morning, as I packed up my roasting pan and a batch of homemade bread dough to take to my parents' house, Ethan spoke up. "We haven't had a Christmas morning together in 3 years, he said quietly. I paused, my hands full of containers. "I know, but my family is counting on me." He gestured around our small apartment, his expression frustrated. "What about us, Hannah? What about the life we're trying to build? It feels like they get the best of you, and I get whatever energy is left over." I didn't know how to respond. I just stood there, feeling torn between my relationship and my family obligations. The argument escalated until Ethan finally said something that stung deeply, even though it was true. "They don't value you, Hannah. They value what you do. For them, there's a difference." I opened my mouth to defend my family, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I said the only thing I could think of. I have to go. I'll be late. 3 months later, Ethan received a job offer overseas. When he asked me to go with him, I couldn't bring myself to leave my family. I can't just abandon them, I said, tears in my eyes. They need me. Ethan shook his head sadly. No, Hannah. They need your cooking, not you. We broke up soon after. Looking back now, I see that moment for what it really was, a turning point. I chose my role as the family chef over my relationship, obligation over love. But at the time, all I felt was guilt and a strange sense of duty I couldn't explain. As the years went by, my holiday meals became more and more elaborate. For Thanksgiving, I would spend weeks testing new recipes. For Christmas, I baked dozens of cookies and cakes completely from scratch. Every Easter, I hand-decorated eggs and made homemade hot cross buns. I would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning prepping food, then wake up at dawn to keep going. And it wasn't just my time. It was my money, too. While my family would occasionally pitch in a little for groceries, they never covered the full cost. The organic, free-range turkey, the fancy cheeses, the imported fruits for my signature desserts, all of it came out of my pocket. Over the years, I spent thousands of dollars making sure every meal was perfect. I even bought expensive equipment, a stand mixer, a top-of-the-line food processor, and a set of German knives that cost nearly $1,000. And what did my family give in return? A few casual compliments. At best, Dad would pat his stomach and say, "Great job, Hannah." Mom would tell her friends how talented her daughter was. Megan would take pictures of the food for her Instagram, but never offered to help prepare any of it. Tyler would load up his plate and ask for containers to take leftovers home, but no one ever truly saw me. Sure, 15 minutes before guests arrived, someone might pop into the kitchen and say, "Need any help?" But by then, the hard work was already done. They never volunteered to do the grocery shopping or handle cleanup without being told. I tried dropping hints. "This turkey is so heavy, I almost hurt my back carrying it," I'd say, or "I've been on my feet for 12 hours straight." Their responses were always the same, sympathetic noises, followed by nothing. No actual action. One day, my friend Sophie came over the morning after Thanksgiving. She found me lying on the couch, exhausted, my hair a mess, barely able to keep my eyes open. "You look awful," she said bluntly, taking in the chaos of my apartment. "Thanks," I muttered, too tired to even pretend to be offended. "No, I mean it," she said, sitting beside me. "Hannah, this isn't normal. You just spent 3 days cooking for 18 people, and now you're cleaning up alone. Who does that?" I gave a weak laugh. "It's just how my family is." Sophie shook her head. "No, it's how they are with you because you let them. Have you ever stopped to think about why you keep doing this to yourself?" I didn't have an answer. Not then, but her question stuck in my mind like a tiny seed planted in soil. Why did I keep doing this? Was it love? Was it obligation? Was it because I desperately wanted their approval? Or was it just a habit I didn't know how to break? At the time, I didn't know. But deep down, I think I was afraid to find out. As the years rolled on, my life, outside of family obligations, kept getting busier. At work, I was climbing the ladder at a respected design agency. I'd started as a junior designer right out of college, but through long hours and dedication, I slowly moved up to a project manager role. My days were packed with meetings, deadlines, and client calls. My phone was constantly buzzing with emails and urgent requests. My team relied on me for guidance and problem-solving. Work alone was enough to drain me, but I was still trying to maintain my role as the family chef. That meant that during some of my most demanding work weeks, I was also spending my weekends testing recipes or shopping for special ingredients. I'd leave the office after a stressful day, only to go home and prep for the next family event. My apartment didn't even feel like my own space anymore. Every corner was filled with cookbooks, baking tools, or specialized kitchen gadgets. My fridge was always stocked, not with food for me, but with ingredients for the next big family meal. It was like my entire life revolved around everyone else's needs. Dating was nearly impossible. How do you explain to someone new that you're completely unavailable for every major holiday? Most people didn't stick around once they realized my schedule was consumed by my family's expectations. The one relationship I had managed to maintain with Ethan had already ended because of this. And as time went on, I started to wonder if I'd ever have a life outside of the kitchen. The breaking point started to show when my sister Megan got engaged. She was thrilled, of course, and we were all happy for her. But almost immediately, the planning began, and somehow I was expected to take on even more work. One day, Mom called me, sounding rushed but cheerful. "Megan's engagement party is coming up," she said. "She really wants her favorite appetizers for it. You know, those little puff pastry bites you made that one time with the brie cheese?" "Sure," I said automatically, already mentally adding it to my to-do list. "Oh, and could you do a dessert table too? Kyle's mom is going to be there, and she's very particular. It would make a great impression." Before I could even process the request, Mom kept going, rattling off other dishes Megan would love. I didn't even get a chance to say yes or no. It was just assumed I'd do it. For 3 weekends straight, I prepared for that party. I shopped, baked, decorated, and organized everything. The morning of the event, I showed up at my parents' house 6 hours early to set everything up by the time the guests started arriving. I was already exhausted, but I pushed through, replenishing trays and keeping everything perfect while everyone else celebrated. When it came time for speeches, Megan stood next to Kyle, glowing with happiness. She thanked Kyle's parents for welcoming her into their family. She thanked our parents for their love and support. She even thanked the family dog for being so cute in all the pictures. But me, the one who had spent weeks planning and creating this entire event, not a word. I stood there, holding an empty platter, feeling like someone had physically punched me in the chest. Later, when Mum gathered everyone for a group photo, I lingered nearby, ready to finally be included. Instead, Mum called out, "Hannah, could you fix the lighting? There's a glare in the photo." I adjusted the lamp and waited, thinking I'd be invited to join the picture after. But when I looked up, everyone was already smiling for the camera without me. The photo was taken. I was left standing off to the side, completely unseen. That night, after most of the guests had left, I stayed behind to clean up. As usual, as I was packing leftovers into containers, a voice startled me. "You must be Hannah," a man said. Leaning casually against the doorway, I turned, surprised. "Oh yes, and you are?" He smiled warmly. "Robert, I'm Kyle's cousin. I just moved to town." "Oh," I said, trying to smile back. "Nice to meet you." He glanced around at the trays of food and dirty dishes. "So, you're the one everyone's been talking about, the amazing chef." I froze. "Someone mentioned me, of course," Robert said. Kyle couldn't stop raving about how good the food was, though he didn't mention that the chef herself was this pretty. Normally, I would have rolled my eyes at such a line, but after a whole day of being invisible, his words caught me off guard. I laughed, a little embarrassed. "Well, thank you. That's kind." Robert didn't just stand there. He actually rolled up his sleeves and started helping me clean without being asked. As we worked side by side, he asked questions, not just about the food, but about me. Double quotes. "So, do you do this often? Cater big events like this for your family?" he asked while drying a serving platter. "Every family gathering," I admitted, "pretty much by myself. And, do you enjoy it?" His question caught me completely off guard. Did I enjoy it? The cooking itself? Yes. I still loved creating dishes and seeing people enjoy them. But everything else, the exhaustion, the lack of help, the way no one seemed to notice my effort. I realized I hadn't asked myself that question in years. I used to, I said slowly. Now, I'm not so sure. Robert nodded thoughtfully. My mum was like you. She used to do everything for everyone. And then one year, at my dad's 50th birthday, she completely broke down while cutting the cake. Just started sobbing. That's when we all realized things had to change. I stared at him, wide-eyed. What happened after that? We started sharing the workload, he said simply. Everyone pitches in now. It was hard at first, but it saved our family. Emotional labor can't just fall on one person. Emotional labor, I repeated, unfamiliar with the phrase. Yeah, he explained. It's all the invisible work that goes into making sure everyone feels cared for, the planning, the remembering, the anticipating of needs. Most of the time, women end up doing almost all of it, and no one notices until they stop. I was quiet for a moment, letting his words sink in. Robert smiled softly. You deserve to be part of the celebration too, Hannah. Not just the one. Making it possible. For the first time in years, I felt seen not for what I could do, but for who I was. Before he left, Robert gave me his number. Call me sometime, he said. Even if it's just to grab a coffee and not talk about food. Asterisk, asterisk, I tucked his number into my pocket, unsure why it felt so significant. As I finished cleaning the kitchen that night, I realized that meeting Robert had sparked something in me, a tiny flicker of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, things didn't have to stay this way forever. In the months after Megan's engagement party, my life only grew more complicated. Robert and I started dating. Steadily, which was a bright spot in the middle of all my stress. He was kind, thoughtful, and unlike anyone I had dated before. But my family didn't slow down with their demands. Not even a little. That year, 3 big events came, one right after the other. Mum's 60th birthday, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Each one was more exhausting than the last. For Mum's birthday, she wanted a huge dinner with friends, extended family, and members of her bridge club, 20 people in total. I spent 2 whole months planning and testing recipes for a 5-course meal. The week of the party, I even took 3 days off work to prep and bake. My co-workers thought I was going on a relaxing mini vacation, but really, I was just working even harder in my parents' kitchen. On the night of the party, everyone gathered in the dining room for a big toast to Mom. Where was I during this heartfelt moment? In the kitchen, plating desserts. By the time someone finally brought me a slice of the cake I had baked, the party was winding down. I sat alone at the empty table, eating my slice of cake, while Mom opened gifts from other people, gifts they had bought with a swipe of a credit card. While I had given weeks of my life, I felt hollow inside. Then came Thanksgiving. Work was especially intense at that time because I had a huge project deadline the Monday after the holiday. I was juggling work calls and emails, while also trying to cook a massive meal for 18 people. Everything that could go wrong did. The turkey took longer to cook than expected, which sent Tyler into a loud spiral of complaints about being hungry. Megan made a pointed comment about how the cranberry sauce tasted different this year. She didn't even bother to hide her disappointment. Dad fell asleep in his recliner immediately after eating. Mum spent most of dinner talking to Megan about her upcoming wedding plans, barely even acknowledging the food I had spent 3 days preparing. By the end of the night, I was too drained to even cry. Christmas was just around the corner, and instead of feeling excited, I felt dread. The joy I used to find in cooking had been buried under layers of stress and exhaustion. One evening, Robert noticed me frantically making lists of ingredients. My brow furrowed with worry. You know, he said gently, you could just say no. I let out a humorless laugh. You don't understand my family. Saying no isn't an option. Robert tilted his head, looking at me carefully. It's always an option. It just doesn't feel like one because you've never tried it." His words stuck with me, echoing in my head even as I brushed them aside. Could I say no? What would happen if I did? Would they finally see me as more than the person who provided the food? Or would they just replace me and never think twice? As Christmas approached, these questions weighed on me heavily. For the first time, I allowed myself to picture what a holiday might look like if I weren't stuck in the kitchen all day. A holiday where I actually sat at the table, had conversations, and appeared in family photos. The image was so foreign that it brought tears to my eyes. But that year's Thanksgiving turned out to be the true breaking point. The morning of Thanksgiving, I woke up feeling awful, feverish, achy, and with a cough. So bad it hurt to breathe, under any normal circumstances. I would have stayed home and rested, but I wasn't just anyone, I was the family chef. And in my mind, that meant holidays couldn't happen without me. So I forced myself out of bed, downed some cold medicine, and drove to my parents' house at 7 in the morning. My temperature climbing past 101. When Mum saw me, she frowned slightly. "You don't look well, honey." "I'm fine," I lied, already unpacking groceries. "Just try not to cough near the food," she said before walking out of the kitchen, leaving me alone to manage everything for the next 8 hours. I cooked through waves of dizziness and chills. Not one person offered to help, even as I visibly struggled. Dad poked his head in once, not to check on me, but to ask, "When will dinner be ready?" Megan arrived with Kyle and immediately pulled Mum aside to talk about wedding details, completely ignoring me. Tyler showed up late, complaining about traffic and contributing absolutely nothing. Grandma Ruth arrived last, sniffed the air and said, "It smells different this year. Not as good." By the time we finally sat down to eat, my fever had spiked, and I couldn't even taste the food I had spent all day making. I barely ate a few bites while everyone else devoured their plates. No one seemed to notice my lack of appetite, my obvious exhaustion after dinner. While everyone retired to the living room for coffee and pie, I stayed behind to clean up. As I loaded the dishwasher, my eyes fell on a photo album sitting on the counter. I opened it absent-mindedly, flipping through pages filled with holiday memories. There were pictures of Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas mornings, Easter brunches, birthdays, years and years of family moments in photo after photo. My family was smiling and laughing around tables filled with food. Food I had prepared. But what hit me like a physical blow was my absence from nearly every single picture. 15 years of holidays, and I was in maybe 5 photos. And even in those, I was partially cut off, blurred in the background, or caught mid-motion as I carried a dish to the table. It was like I was a ghost haunting my own family's memories. I wasn't really there, not in the way that mattered. My hands trembled as I carried the photo album into the living room, where my family was laughing at something Tyler had just said. "Mum," I said, my voice shaky, "do you realize there are almost no pictures of me in this album? 15 years of holidays, and it's like I don't exist." The laughter died down. Everyone turned to look at me, confused. Mum frowned, as if she didn't understand why this was a problem. "Well, you're always busy in the kitchen, dear. That's just how it is." "Exactly," I burst out. "I've been so busy cooking and cleaning that I haven't been part of any of this. No memories, no moments, just work." Mum blinked at me, looking genuinely puzzled. "But you love cooking. You take such pride in it." Before I could answer, Tyler chimed in, clearly thinking he was being helpful. "Chill out, Hannah. Everyone has their role. Megan's the pretty one, I'm the funny one, and you're the one who feeds us. That's your thing." His words hit me like a slap. That's all I was to them. The one who feeds us. Not a sister, not a daughter, not a person, just a function. I looked around the room, seeing everyone's faces in a new light. Mom's confusion, Dad's discomfort, Megan's impatience, Tyler's obliviousness, Grandma Ruth's silent disapproval, and something inside me finally broke, or maybe finally healed, without another word. I closed the photo album and placed it on the coffee table. "I'm going home," I said quietly. "I don't feel well, but we haven't had dessert," Mom protested. "You made your special pumpkin cheesecake. Serve it without me," I said, grabbing my coat. "I'm sure you can manage to cut a cheesecake on your own." The drive home was a blur of tears and clarity. I finally understood just how deeply I had been taken for granted. When I got home, I called Sophie. She came over immediately with medicine, tissues, and a warm hug. Asterisk, asterisk, as I showed her the pictures on my phone, she shook her head sadly. "Oh, Hannah," she said softly, "how did you not see this before?" "I didn't want to," I admitted, through tears. I kept thinking if I'd just tried harder, cooked better, did more, they'd finally see me, really see me. Later that night, Robert called to check on me. Instead of my usual polite summary of how dinner went, I told him everything: the fever, the photos, the painful realization that had been years in the making. "I'm coming over," he said immediately. When he arrived, he held me while I cried. Then he made me tea and toast, simple acts of care that felt more meaningful than any elaborate holiday meal I had ever prepared. "You know this can't keep going," he said gently, and for the first time I knew he was right. The morning after that heartbreaking Thanksgiving, I woke up feeling like I had been hit by a truck. My fever was still raging, and my body ached from head to toe. But beneath the sickness, there was something new, something sharp and clear. Resolve. Robert was right. Sophie was right. I couldn't keep living like this. For 15 years, I had been bending over backward to please my family. I had missed out on love, on memories, on my own life, and for what? So they could keep seeing me as nothing more than the one who feeds us. No more. 2 weeks before the next Thanksgiving, I finally worked up the courage to call my mum. My hands shook as I dialed her number. "Hi, Mum," I said when she picked up, forcing a casual tone. "I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving this year." "Oh, good," she said cheerfully. "I was just about to call you. I think we should try that new Brussels sprouts recipe you mentioned. Maybe add some chestnuts." "Mum," I interrupted. Gently, "I'm not joking. I'm calling to let you know that I won't be cooking this year." There was a stunned pause on the other end of the line. Then she let out a little laugh, like she thought I was joking. "Very funny, Hannah. Now, about dessert, I'm serious," I cut in firmly. "I will come to Thanksgiving as a guest, but I won't be preparing the meal." The silence stretched longer this time. "Finally," she said, her voice shaky, "but you always do the cooking. It's tradition." "It's a tradition that needs to change," I replied. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice calm. For 15 years, I've spent every holiday stuck in the kitchen while everyone else made memories together. I've missed conversations, photos, and moments because I was too busy cooking and cleaning up. I can't do it anymore, Mom. I won't do it anymore. There was a sharp edge to her tone now, her confusion turning into alarm. "But what will we eat? You know I'm not much of a cook, and all the restaurants book up months in advance. You can't just spring this on us last minute." "Mom, it's 2 weeks before Thanksgiving," I reminded her. "That's plenty of time to make other plans. You can split up the cooking between everyone, or order a prepared meal from the grocery store, or even find a restaurant that still has openings." "This is so unlike you," she said, her voice taking on the disappointed tone that had always made me cave in the past. "Is something wrong? Are you going through something?" "Yes," I said honestly. "I'm going through the realization that I've been taken for granted for a very long time. I love you all, but I need things to change." When we hung up, she was still clearly in shock, convinced I'd changed my mind, but I didn't. Later that day, I sent a group text to the entire family. I won't be cooking for Thanksgiving this year. I'm happy to attend as a guest, but someone else will need to handle the meal preparations. This is not negotiable. The responses came quickly and wildly. Dad texted first, simple and direct. Understood. We'll talk to your mother. At least he didn't argue. Then Megan called, practically yelling through the phone. What is this drama about? You know, Mom can't cook a Thanksgiving dinner, and I definitely don't have time with all the wedding planning. Are you trying to ruin the holiday for everyone? I'm not trying to ruin anything, I said evenly. I'm trying to actually be part of the holiday for once. You are part of it, she argued. You're literally in the house all day. Being in the house isn't the same as being included. Megan, when was the last time I was in a holiday photo? When was the last time anyone helped me in the kitchen, or even asked if I wanted to cook? When was the last time anyone thanked me not just for the food but for the weeks of planning and preparation that went into it? So, this is about compliments, Megan snapped. You could have just said that instead of holding Thanksgiving hostage. I sighed deeply, realizing she didn't get it at all. It's not about compliments. It's about being valued as a person, not just as free labor. The next call came from Tyler. He opened with what he thought was a helpful solution. Look, Hannah, if this is about money, I can chip in more this year. Would $500 make it better? $1,000? I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. It's not about money. Tyler, the fact that you think my time and effort can just be bought says a lot, though. And then there was Grandma Ruth. She didn't call me directly. Instead, she sent a message through Mum. Your grandmother says she has never been so disappointed in you. She raised her children to respect family traditions. The pressure kept building as the days passed. Mum even arranged a family conference call that felt more like an intervention. The timing is just so inconsiderate, Mum complained. We've always counted on you for this. That's exactly the problem, I said. You've counted on me without counting me in. Megan tried another angle. Is this about Robert? Is he putting these ideas in your head? Because it's not a good look for a new boyfriend to interfere with family traditions. This has nothing to do with Robert, I said sharply. It has everything to do with 15 years of me being invisible at my own family gatherings. Tyler, ever the practical one, made a last-ditch offer. What if we hired kitchen help? You could just supervise and still join us for dinner. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. That's not the point. I don't want a workaround that keeps me stuck in the same role. I need you all to recognize that I have feelings and needs beyond just keeping this family fed. Their responses confirmed what I had feared all along. They didn't care about me. They cared about the service I provided, and that painful realization only strengthened my resolve. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Mum called with what she clearly thought was a compromise. We've decided to order a pre-cooked turkey from the grocery store, she announced. But we'll still need you to come early to heat everything properly and make the gravy. The store doesn't provide gravy. Mom, I said firmly, I'm not coming early, and I'm not making gravy. I'll arrive at the same time as everyone else as a guest. I don't understand why you're being so difficult about this, she said, frustration bubbling up. I know you don't understand, I said softly, and that's exactly the problem. Thanksgiving Day arrived. For the first time in 15 years. I slept in. There was no pre-dawn alarm to start basting turkeys or rolling out pie dough. No frantic last-minute grocery runs, no endless chopping and stirring. I took my time getting ready, grabbed a bottle of wine, and drove over to my parents' house at the designated dinner time. When I walked in, the scene was pure chaos. The pre-cooked turkey was still sitting in its packaging on the counter. Stone cold in the middle, Mum was running around, opening and closing cabinets, looking for utensils and serving dishes I usually provided. Dad was stirring a pot of lumpy, pale gravy from a packet, looking utterly lost. Megan and Kyle were standing awkwardly to the side, both glued to their phones instead of helping. Tyler wasn't even there yet. "Oh, thank goodness," Mom said when she saw me. "We're having a bit of a situation with the turkey. The instructions say it's fully cooked, but it's still cold inside. We don't know how long to heat it." For a brief moment, I felt that old familiar pull, the urge to jump in, fix everything, and save the day. But I resisted. "The package should have heating instructions," I said calmly, keeping my coat on. "Where's Tyler?" "He went to pick up Grandma," Dad said, still stirring his disastrous gravy. "She didn't want to come at first, but she finally agreed." "Good to know," I said. "Is there anything I can help with as a guest?" The way I emphasized "as a guest" made Mom's lips tighten, but she nodded toward the dining room. "You can set the table." Dinner that night was, well, let's just say it wasn't great. The turkey was a bit dry, the store-bought side dishes were bland, and Dad's lumpy gravy went mostly untouched. But for the first time in 15 years, I sat through the entire holiday meal. I joined the conversation. I was there for Dad's awkward but heartfelt toast. I even appeared in the family photo Megan insisted on taking afterward. I helped with basic cleanup, just like any normal guest would. As I headed home that night, my emotions were mixed. Guilt, seeing my family struggle. Relief, knowing I had finally set a boundary. Sadness, for all the years I had lost. And hope that maybe, someday, things could truly change. Mum hugged me a little longer than usual before I left. "It wasn't the same without your cooking," she admitted softly. "It was different for me, too," I said gently. "But it was nice to be at Thanksgiving, rather than just providing it." She studied me for a moment. "Will you at least cook for Christmas? Your father really looks forward to your holiday ham." And just like that, I knew one Thanksgiving wasn't going to be enough to undo 15 years of patterns. "No, Mum," I said firmly. "I won't be cooking for Christmas either." What I didn't tell her then was that I wouldn't even be attending Christmas this year. Asterisk, asterisk, for the first time in my adult life. I had made plans that were just for me. In the weeks following Thanksgiving, there was a strange silence in my family. No one openly mentioned my refusal to cook, but the tension was thick, like an invisible fog hanging over every conversation. Mum called me less often. Dad stuck too short. Practical text messages. Megan buried herself in wedding planning, which gave her a convenient excuse to avoid talking about what had happened. The only one who reached out in a genuine way was Tyler. One evening, he sent a simple text. Thanksgiving was eye-opening. Never realized how much work goes into these meals. Sorry for taking it for granted. It wasn't much, but it meant everything. To me, thank you for noticing, I replied. That means a lot. But as Christmas grew closer, I could feel the anxiety building in the family group chat. They were all waiting for me to come to my senses and return to my old role. They didn't understand that this time, my boundary was even firmer. On our next family video call, I dropped the news. "I wanted to let you all know," I said carefully, "that I won't be attending Christmas this year." The silence was immediate and deafening. Finally, Mum spoke, her voice sharp with disbelief. "What other plans could possibly be more important than Christmas with your family?" I took a deep breath. "I'm going to Mexico," I said simply. "A beach vacation. It's already booked." The stunned silence deepened. It was as if I had just announced I was moving to another planet. "This is ridiculous," Megan exploded. "First, you refused to cook Thanksgiving, and now you're skipping Christmas entirely. When did you become so selfish?" I clenched my hands in my lap, trying to stay calm. "I don't think it's selfish to want to enjoy a holiday. Instead of working through it," I said firmly. "For 15 years, I've spent every Christmas trapped in the kitchen while everyone else made memories. This year, I'm choosing something different. Mum's voice trembled as she jumped in. But we're family, Hannah. Christmas is about being together. Yes, I agreed. But for 15 years, I haven't really been with you. I've been in the kitchen, separated from the laughter, the conversations, the gift opening. This year, I'm taking a real break. Mom tried another tactic, her tone turning sorrowful. Your grandmother will be devastated. I'll call Grandma on Christmas Day, I promised. But my decision is final. The call ended with, everyone's still reeling. Only Tyler spoke up before we hung up, muttering, enjoy the sun, I guess. What I didn't mention during the call was that I wouldn't be going to Mexico alone. Robert had been the one to suggest the trip in the first place. He'd said, why not experience a holiday where you actually rest instead of exhausting yourself? When he asked if he could come with me, it felt like the most natural thing in the world to say yes as the days passed. My family's attempts to change my mind grew more intense. Mum left tearful voicemails about broken traditions. Megan sent passive-aggressive texts, calling me selfish. Dad, in his usual understated way, sent a single message. Your mother is very upset. Please reconsider. Even Grandma Ruth got involved, calling me directly a rare occurrence. In my day, she began without preamble. Family came first. Always this modern idea of putting yourself first is unthinkable. I took a deep breath. Times change, Grandma, and sometimes traditions need to change too. Traditions are what hold families together, she snapped. Without them, what are we? Her question stayed with me long after the call ended. What were we, if not our traditions? But then I realized traditions only mattered if they brought joy. If they came at the expense of one person's well-being, were they really worth preserving? The day before we left for Mexico, Robert came over to help me pack as I folded sundresses and swimsuits in the middle of December. A strange, giddy sense of freedom washed over me. You seem lighter already, Robert said. Slipping sunscreen into my toiletry bag, I feel like I'm breaking out of prison, I admitted with a laugh. Is that terrible? Not terrible, he said with a smile, just honest. I looked at him, gratitude swelling in my chest. This isn't about teaching them a lesson, I said quietly. It's about finally doing something for me. He nodded. Of course. But even if it's not your goal, they might still learn something from this. Christmas morning arrived, and instead of standing in a hot kitchen, I was sitting on a pristine beach, watching the sun rise over turquoise water. The air smelled of salt and possibility. The only sounds were waves lapping gently at the shore and the occasional call of a distant seabird. I had turned my phone off the night before, wanting to be fully present for this new experience. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly free. Around 10 a.m., I turned my phone on for just a moment, intending to send a simple Merry Christmas text before returning to my peaceful day. What I saw made my jaw drop. 12 missed calls from Mum, 5 from Megan. Even Dad had called 3 times a record for him. The text messages were endless. And as I scrolled, I saw them evolve from irritation to full-blown panic. Mum, at 6:30 a.m., Merry Christmas. Please reconsider and come home. Megan at 8:45 a.m., Mum is crying because you're not here. Hope you're enjoying your selfish beach trip. Tyler at 9:15 a.m., the turkey is still frozen. Google says it takes days to defrost. This can't be right, can it? Mum at 10:30 a.m., we can't figure out how to cook this turkey. It's raw in the middle, and everyone's hungry. Dad at 11:45 a.m., your mother is very upset. Dinner is falling apart. Please call. Megan at 12:30 p.m., this is a disaster. No one knows how to make gravy. Grandma keeps asking where you are. Thanks a lot. I stared at the screen, torn between laughter and disbelief. Just then, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Sophie. You are not going to believe this, she said, barely holding back laughter. I stopped by your parents' house to drop off a gift. And Hannah, it's pure chaos. I pressed the phone to my ear, eager for details. Tell me everything. Your dad is watching YouTube videos on how to carve a turkey. Your mum is on the verge of tears because the mashed potatoes are lumpy. Megan is literally drinking wine, straight from the bottle, and Tyler is trying to convince everyone to just order pizza. Despite myself, I laughed so hard, tears filled my eyes. Are they really that helpless without me? Completely, Sophie said. Your grandma keeps sighing dramatically and saying things like, in my day, daughters didn't abandon their families for beach vacations. It's like a comedy show over here. When I finally caught my breath, I asked quietly, do you think I made a mistake? Absolutely not, Sophie said firmly. They needed to see what you've been silently doing for years, honestly. My only concern is that they might give everyone food poisoning with that undercooked turkey. We both laughed. And then I sent my family a group text. Merry Christmas. Here are simple instructions for cooking the turkey, fixing the potatoes, and making easy gravy. I hope today brings you joy and perspective. Then I turned off my phone again and went to join Robert, who was waiting for me on the beach with fresh fruit and pastries. Family crisis, he asked with a knowing smile. Family reality check, I corrected, accepting a slice of mango. Apparently, Christmas dinner is not going well. Sometimes people have to feel the absence of something to truly value it, Robert said thoughtfully. That sounds like a greeting card, I teased. He grinned. Doesn't make it any less true. As we ate breakfast, a deep sense of peace settled over me. For the first time in my adult life, Christmas wasn't a day of exhaustion and resentment. It was simply mine. Coming home after Mexico felt surreal. The week on the beach with Robert had been like stepping into another life, a life where I wasn't constantly stressed or exhausted, where holidays meant rest instead of endless labor. The moment we landed back home, the air felt heavier, colder, more complicated. As I unpacked my suitcase, I found myself clinging to the peace I'd felt on that beach, determined not to let it slip away, but I knew the real challenge was about to begin. My family would want answers. Sure enough, I had barely unpacked when my phone buzzed with a call from Mum. Her voice sounded different this time, not demanding, not angry, but tentative. Hannah, she said softly, can we meet for coffee? Just the two of us. I hesitated, then agreed. Part of me dreaded the conversation, but another part was curious. We met at a quiet little cafe near my apartment. When I walked in, Mum looked tired, not just didn't sleep well, tired, but bone-deep exhausted. It was a look I recognized, all too well the same look I used to see in my own reflection after every holiday I had cooked for. You look good, she said as we hugged. Rested, I am, I admitted, sitting down across from her. The vacation was exactly what I needed. She nodded, staring down at her coffee cup, turning it slowly in her hands. Then she looked up, her eyes misty. Christmas was a disaster, she said bluntly. I stayed silent, bracing myself for a wave of guilt or blame. But to my surprise, what came next was something very different. The turkey was undercooked, she continued. The sides were bland, and your grandmother complained the entire time. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. And that was just from handling one meal. Her voice trembled as she went on. I never realized how much you've been doing all these years. The planning, the cooking, the cleaning. I thought I understood, but Hannah, I had no idea. Tears pricked my eyes as she spoke. After 15 years, she was finally seeing it. Yes, I said simply. That's what it's been like for me. Every single holiday. Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, she said. Truly, we took you for granted. I never thought about how isolating it must have been for you, stuck in the kitchen, while the rest of us celebrated. Her apology wasn't perfect. There was still a hint of self-pity in her tone, a subtle look how much we suffered without you. But it was genuine, and it was more reflection than I had ever heard from her before. "Thank you for saying that," I said softly. "It means a lot." She smiled sadly. "Your father wants to apologize too, you know. He feels awful about never helping with the meals. He just didn't know how." "Not knowing how isn't an excuse for never learning," I pointed out. Gently. "You're right," Mom agreed, surprising me. That's why he signed up for a basic cooking class at the community center. He says it's time he learned to make more than toast and cereal. I blinked in shock, then laughed out loud. Dad in a cooking class? I'd pay good money to see that. Mum laughed too, a real, genuine laugh I hadn't heard in a while. "He's terrible so far. Last week he burned spaghetti noodles. But he's trying, which is more than any of us can say before now." 2 days later, I received an email from Dad. It was short, simple, and so very him. *Hannah, for years. I enjoyed the meals you made without considering the work involved or offering to help. Your absence at Christmas showed me how much I've taken you for granted. I'm sorry cooking is harder than it looks. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Love, Dad. Reading his words brought tears to my eyes. I typed back a simple reply. Thank you, Dad. That means more to me than you know. Megan was slower to come around at first. Her texts were still full of resentment, framing my decisions as attacks on family tradition. But eventually, even she reached out, asking if we could meet for coffee. When we sat down together, she sighed dramatically. "I still think you could have picked a different time to make your point," she said. "Christmas wasn't exactly ideal." "Probably not," I admitted with a small smile. "But it had to happen sometime." Megan looked at me, her expression softening. "I get it now," she said. "We relied on you too much, and we didn't really see you." It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start to my surprise. The person who changed the most quickly was Tyler. Having been there during the Christmas disaster, he got a first-hand look at how helpless everyone was without me. Over lunch one day, he admitted, Mum had a complete meltdown trying to time all the dishes. Dad sliced his finger, trying to cut vegetables. And me. I realized I didn't even know where the measuring cups were kept in our parents' kitchen. We were like lost children without you. I laughed, but there was a pang of sadness behind it. At least now you see why I was so overwhelmed all the time. Yeah, he said quietly. I'm sorry for not realizing it sooner. The real test came at our next family gathering, Dad's birthday in February. For the first time in over a decade, I showed up as just a guest. Mum asked me to help plan the menu, but she didn't expect me to take over everything. When I arrived, I was shocked at how different things felt. Mum and I cooked a few of the main dishes together. This time, she actually followed my suggestions instead of brushing them off. Dad proudly brought a pasta salad he'd made himself from his cooking class. He grinned like a kid when people went back for seconds. Megan brought dessert, and Tyler handled the drinks and setup. Everyone had contributed in some way, and for the first time ever, the work felt shared. Most surprising of all, I was fully present for every family photo, not blurry in the background, not cropped out, not behind the camera. I was there, and my smile was real. Later, as we all cleaned up together, Mum pulled me aside. This is better, she said simply. Everyone participating, everyone pitching in. I wish we'd done it this way all along. Me too, I agreed softly. But I'm glad we're finally here now. My relationship with Robert had grown even deeper after our trip. He'd seen me at my breaking point and at my most empowered, and he'd supported me through it all without trying to control me. One quiet evening, as we cooked dinner together at my place, he asked, "Do you miss it, being the family chef?" I thought for a long moment. I missed certain parts. I admitted the creativity, the satisfaction of making something beautiful, but I don't miss the exhaustion, the invisibility, or the feeling that I didn't matter beyond the food I made. Robert stirred the sauce and smiled. You know what I think? What? I asked, curious. I think you can still be the family chef sometimes, he said gently, but only when it's your choice. When you do it because you want to, not because it's expected. It should feel like a gift, not a job. His words hit me deep in my heart. Maybe that was the real lesson in all of this. The difference between chosen generosity and demanded sacrifice stopped between being valued for who you are, not just what you provide. The months after Dad's birthday felt like a slow, steady shift. It wasn't dramatic. There were no fireworks or big declarations. But little by little, the entire dynamic of our family began to change. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like more than just the one who feeds us. And it wasn't just about who cooked the meals. It was about how we interacted, how we saw each other, how we worked together. At our next family gathering, I noticed something extraordinary. Mum had divided the menu into clear assignments. Tyler was in charge of drinks and appetizers. Megan made a side dish. Dad handled the grill. I prepared one dessert. Just because I genuinely wanted to, not because I was expected to. When I arrived that morning, the house didn't smell like panic or exhaustion. It smelled like teamwork. And for the first time in years, Mum wasn't frazzled or on edge. Instead, she greeted me at the door with a warm smile and said, "Come sit. We've got this under control." I nearly cried at those words. For so long, I'd believed I was indispensable, that if I didn't do everything myself, the whole holiday would fall apart. But watching my family bustling around the kitchen laughing, cooperating, figuring things out together, I realized something important. They could do it. They just never had to before. And maybe, just maybe, I had been partly responsible for that for years. I'd stepped into the role of fixer, caretaker, holiday savior, without ever pausing to consider whether I truly wanted to. By always saying yes, by never setting limits, I had unknowingly taught them that my labor was endless and free. It wasn't entirely their fault. They'd taken me for granted. I had trained them to. But now, we were unlearning it together. As the day went on, something beautiful happened. We weren't just a group of people sharing a meal. We were a team. When Dad struggled to slice the ham, Tyler jumped in to help. When Megan's casserole came out a little too salty, Mum laughed and said, "Good, more wine to balance it out." And when dessert was served, I was right there at the table, laughing, tasting, and savoring, not running around with a dish towel over my shoulder. Later, as we all gathered for a family photo, Mum handed the camera to a neighbor and pulled me into the center of the group. "Front and center, Hannah," she said with a proud smile. "You're part of this moment." My throat tightened. It was such a simple gesture, but it meant the world to me. The photo was snapped, and for the first time, I wasn't blurry, cropped out, or in the background. I was seen that night, after everyone had gone home. Mum and I lingered in the quiet kitchen, sipping tea. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice soft. "All these years, I thought I was showing love by letting you shine in the kitchen. I thought I was giving you space to do what you were best at." I nodded, listening carefully. "But now I realize," she continued, her eyes filling with tears, "that what I really did was leave you alone with all the hard work. I never thought about how isolating that must have felt." I reached across the table and took her hand. "It's okay, Mum. We can't change the past, but we can make new traditions, now ones that don't leave anyone out." Her fingers squeezed mine, and for the first time, I felt truly connected to her. A few weeks later, I was sitting on my balcony with Robert, sipping lemonade as the sun set. He looked at me with that warm, knowing smile of his. "You seem lighter," he said. Happier? I am, I admitted. For the first time, I feel like I have a choice. Like I can say yes or no without fear of ruining everything. He nodded thoughtfully. Freedom, he said simply. Exactly, I agreed. I thought about how far I'd come from the woman who silently cooked herself into exhaustion every holiday, to someone who could pack a suitcase and fly to Mexico, without guilt, from the invisible figure behind the scenes, to someone who stood proudly in the center of the family photo. It hadn't been easy. There had been tears, arguments, uncomfortable conversations, but it had been worth it, because in the end, setting boundaries hadn't destroyed my family. It had saved it. The following Thanksgiving, almost a full year after everything had started, I walked into my parents' house with a bottle of wine and a smile. The smell of roasting turkey filled the air, but this time it wasn't mine. Mum and Dad were bustling around the kitchen together. Tyler was setting the table, and Megan was arranging flowers. Hey everyone, I called. They all turned and greeted me warmly, not with guilt trips or demands, but with genuine joy. Come relax, Dad said. Dinner will be ready soon, and you don't have to lift a finger. I laughed, touched by his words. Can I at least help pour the wine? Fine, Mom said with mock sternness, but only the wine. As we sat down to eat, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. The food was delicious, though maybe not as polished as the meals I used to make, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was part of it, really part of it. We talked, laughed, and took dozens of photos. All of us equally present in the moment. As I looked around the table, I realized something profound. I hadn't just changed how my family treated me. I had changed how I saw myself. No longer the silent provider, the background figure, the invisible worker. I was a daughter, a sister, a girlfriend, a whole human being with needs and dreams of my own. And as Robert squeezed my hand under the table, I knew this was just the beginning. Later that night, as everyone hugged goodbye, Mum whispered in my ear, "Thank you for teaching us how to see you. And thank you for giving me the chance to do things differently." I hugged her tightly, my heart full. Thank you for finally seeing me. As I drove home with Robert, I thought about the years I had lost, the memories I had missed. But instead of regret, I felt hope, because now the future was wide open. A future where holidays weren't about exhaustion and obligation, but about connection and joy, and most importantly, a future where I finally had a seat at the table, not as the cook in the background, but as someone who truly belonged. For the first time in my life, I felt free, and I knew I would never go back.